Hello and welcome to the Nice Center Alumni Interview, where each week we sit down with an NDSU alumnus who has gone on to entrepreneurship and try to tease out the wisdom they have gained through the process. This week's guest is Jimmy Slagle, co-founder of Trend Z. In 2019, he co-founded Advest Marketing, a digital advertising agency. He was a finance student at NDSU until 2020 when he decided to leave NDSU to focus full-time on his business. Since then, Advest has rebranded to Trend Z, where they specialize in marketing on the social media platform TikTok. Jimmy, thanks for coming on. How are you doing today?
Doing well, can't complain. Excited to be here. This will be a fun conversation.
Yeah, it absolutely will. You're our youngest person we've had on, I think. So hopefully we can glean some unique insights from that. Could you just start with kind of an overview of what you do as head of a marketing agency, and who your most common customer kind of would be?
Yeah, definitely. So, specifically, our company helps brands build their TikTok. So we have a couple different packages. One of them being we create all the content for the brand in-house. So it's a really hands-off approach for them. The other one is we give them the idea, we train them how to shoot. They shoot the video, we edit it in-house and make it look pretty and make it seem like they did all the work while them keeping the face of their brand. And then the last one is influencer marketing. Um, and that's just where we help brands find influencers native to the TikTok platform that will help just promote them and try to get more traction to their TikTok page. Me specifically in my role, so you can call it a CEO if you want. I like the term visionary more, so I'm the one that's setting the high level objectives, creating the process docs for us to make sure that we're getting things done in a timely manner. Business development is probably my favorite thing, sales and business development, and then just setting the culture and making sure that everyone is happy and motivated and getting everything done that they're supposed to.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wanna kind of get an overview of like how you came to have that mindset as an entrepreneur. And what like kind of were your influences growing up that kind of gave you your entrepreneurial spirit, right? And like, yeah, let's just start with that.
Sure. So, quick background about myself. So, coming out of high school, honestly, I knew I wanted to go into business, but I had no clue what specifically in business I wanted to do. So, naturally, I went to Google, searched the average salary of an entry level job in each of the majors, and decided to go with finance because you were going to make the most money doing that. After my freshman year of college, I got an internship at a bank and just realized that my whole perception was off, and I didn't really love finance. I love more of like the money attached to it, and I wasn't following my true passion. And what led me to knowing that entrepreneurship was my passion, I think, was just the idea of throughout my entire life I played sports. I love sports. I love everything about sports, and I still am a huge sports fan today. And so going from playing sports 365 days a year to going to college where you don't, what I realized is I actually love the underlying principles of sports. So it's the idea of being in a competitive situation. It's the idea of always having to be a step ahead of your opponent. It's the idea of teamwork and doing things together, and you can't just conquer it on your own. And also just the idea of hard work, right? Like in sports, you got to put in the time outside of just the traditional practices. It's the same thing with running your business. And so when I looked at all those different principles, I realized that entrepreneurship was going to be a great fit. And I love creative thinking, I love strategy, and I love all of those different assets. So I think that's really what drove me. I also got big into watching Gary Vee videos, and he's pretty motivational about entrepreneurship and just different thinking than what you're used to hearing. So that was pretty cool. I mean, yeah, none of my parents are entrepreneurs, so it's not like I had this family tie. I think it's something that I just developed on my own and knew that I have the motivation, the skill set, and everything to just be able to jump into it and see where it takes me.
Yeah, absolutely. And keeping with that kind of sports analogy, you starting so young, your own business, and in college, you were an underdog, right? And I'm sure you faced kind of unique challenges being so young. Could you just kind of tell us about like the challenges that are associated with starting young and starting in college when you have so much to juggle?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you realize is that there's just so much that you don't know. And even though it might seem like you know what's happening, it really does just take years and years of experience. And it's tough to jump into it at such a young age because people are paying you to do a service, especially in our business. And so there's obligations that we have to hit and metrics that we have to hit that we told them we could. And so it's a lot of pressure. But like you said, it's that underdog mentality. I'm a firm believer that in today's day and age, you can learn a lot of things through the internet and you can figure out how to make things work. And kind of that idea, fake it till you make it, because no one is going to know exactly how to start a business when they're first doing it. You do just learn along the way, and it's the only way that you're going to really understand and appreciate it. So yeah, it is just a lot of learning on your own. It's intimidating to start, but you also realize that people want to support college students that are entrepreneurs. I think that's the biggest thing is other people in the community know that you're not going to have 30 years of wisdom in the business field. And so a lot of people are willing to take a risk on you and almost mentor you through the process.
Yeah, for sure. You talk about this online a lot, the kind of like status quo where entrepreneurial minded students like yourself, they feel like they need to go into a major like finance or business, right, to make money, like you said. And if you had to give advice to a high school senior, um, like when's the best time to kind of follow that status quo and just go, do the business major? When's a good time to like pursue another passion or major? Because maybe you might have done that in another life or whatever. And when is it time to just forego college altogether and just jump right in, kind of like you eventually did?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give to people in those shoes is you just have to try so many things out. I would have never known that I loved entrepreneurship if I would have jumped into marketing right away and tried to just do it myself. What really caused me to realize it is, one, I had this conception that money was going to make me way happier than actually doing something I loved. And I just wanted to just figure out a way to be successful in the worldly eyes. And after I had an experience that was a good experience in the finance field, I realized I didn't enjoy it. And so in that moment, I knew that more than anything that I wanted to do in my life was do something that I enjoyed. And kind of the mindset behind that is, when you do something you actually like, one, you're going to be willing to put in more hours and more of like a true commitment to doing that work, which is then going to cause you to be more successful in your job. People are going to see the happiness and the joy that you bring, which will radiate to others. And I believe that you'll be able to either move up a company faster or be able to grow your business faster, because people can just see the joy that you have within that field. And so that's my biggest piece, is just like find the things that you like to do. But the only way you're going to find what you like to do is by trying a million different things. So don't get so caught up in doing one thing and focusing on that, because you're not going to know. Try to get as much experience as you can early, because the sooner you can figure out what you like to do and what you don't like to do, one, you're not going to have to go to college as long, and two, it'll probably save your parents a lot of time and energy, and you won't. It's obviously harder if you're a junior or senior and you realize you don't like your major to switch than when you're a freshman or sophomore. So that's what I would say on that aspect. When it comes to college, again, I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give to people is just ask yourself why you're in college. For me, the idea of going to college is it helps you to figure out what you want to do in life, and it helps you to get a job. Those two things are what college can provide for people. And so once you're at a point where you know what you want to do and you have a job, that's when I think college is almost a good conversation point to think about and just be like, okay, what is the point of continuing? But yeah, I think having those two things locked up first is a really smart. So if you had started a business in high school, it's going well. Don't feel like you just have to go to college, because again, the point of college is to help figure out what you want to do and for you to get a job. So that would be my recommendation of when you can really consider to look at doing something different.
Yeah, so just make sure you kind of find what you like, right?
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask you, like a lot of kids feel rushed, like you have to start young, you have to start doing things young. But like what is the value in kind of like taking a little bit of time to have more experiences, like you said, like have as many experiences as you can so you have a good chance to find, exactly what you do like. So what's the value in like taking a longer time to kind of explore a little bit more?
Yeah, I think the biggest or the easiest answer to that is just the experience you're going to get. I mean, one thing that definitely would have helped myself out is if I would have gotten a marketing internship at a company here in town and just learned how it works. Because to this day, like I couldn't tell you what, and maybe other companies don't know this either, but I couldn't tell you what a legit proposal is supposed to look like. I couldn't tell you what the true reporting system is supposed to be. I'm going off what I think makes the most sense and what makes the most sense to the client, but if there's like theoretically a right way to do things, it's not like I had that experience to see it. And so I think that's definitely one aspect of it that is important, is just you learn more about the industry and you learn how business works and how it all works. I mean, again, my longest job within a established corporation is 3 months. And so like there's a big learning curve that you need to just accept that I'm not going to know all the processes and the ins and outs and what happens in HR and what happens in finance and all of these things that are required to start a business and to do your own thing. So I think it just comes with wisdom. Again, the approach I would have is if you're planning to start a business at some point in your life, use those opportunities as more of like a learning lesson to know what you need to do when you actually start a business. Don't go in just blind looking around and being like, oh, this is cool. Just like see how things are done, learn the processes, learn what you would do differently, and just utilize that knowledge space to really just understand what you need to do going forward.
Yeah, that's great. So just to pivot a little bit to kind of the specifics of what you do, if I'm somebody who's starting a business or I have a business, how important is it for a company to keep up with the most modern and popular advertising method? And would you always recommend that a company ports resources into the latest and greatest, which is like TikTok right now? Or is it kind of like you should try to have a diversified advertisement portfolio?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, to answer your second question first, is the idea of like you should just be where your audience is. I mean, one thing to think about is Gen Z, which is anyone 24 and younger, over the next 10 years is going to be a majority of the workforce, and so it's smart to look ahead and make sure you're not just completely forgetting about the younger generation. But I think it's just be wherever your audience is. I mean, if you're selling healthcare, probably doesn't make the most sense to target Gen Z at this specific moment because a lot of us will be on our parents' plans for the next couple of years. But if you're in like a direct to consumer, so like a consumer good or anything, I think it's really smart to be within that space because brands really reap the benefit when they are able to market to Gen Z effectively. I mean, I look at Gymshark, for example. They're probably one of the bigger competitors to Nike just because people have a similar viewpoint that they do on Nike. They love the brand, they love the product. Gymshark went after micro influencers, so it's people that you and I can relate to, and that established them to just feel more of like a real company rather than just only athletes or only successful people that Nike sponsors. You look at Chipotle and you look at Chick-fil-A and all of these different fast food places. People love that not only because of the food, but also just because of their reputation on social media. So yeah, I think it's really important if Gen Z is even in the near future of who you're going to be targeting to keep up because we as Gen Zers love authenticity. We love brands that can relate to us. We love brands that have an actual voice and not just always saying the right things or taking the politically right stance. We like to see just people doing things differently, and I think that's like you. But I think it's worth it if you could get those loyal followers that, regardless of what you sell, what you do, are going to stick with you just because of that brand reputation that you have.
Yeah, yeah. And now that you mention it, like Gymshark totally did that, and so does Chipotle. But Gymshark, yeah, they just pay like a ton of like people like me to just wear their clothes, and it's like, oh, they're totally relatable. Like you said, like we like authenticity, and Gymshark has totally done that. That's really interesting. That certainly seems like an advertising method that's modern and works. Um, so last question here. You ultimately, did we lose him a little?
Are you there?
Can you hear me, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Just a little buffer there. Ultimately, you left NDSU because it was no longer reasonable to juggle running a business and being a student. While you were here, though, what opportunities did NDSU afford you that you wouldn't have gotten if you didn't go to college? And how did they help shape you into the driven person you are today?
I think the first thing is Scott's done a great job with the Night Center. Having Scott as a mentor has been, very, very valuable to us. And just having someone that's gone through the, marketing world and understands it, he was able to provide us those opportunities. Working with the Night Center was fantastic. I think that was, probably one of the highlights that I had while I was at NDSU. And you just meet other motivated and driven individuals. And I'm a huge believer that you're only going to be successful as the five closest people that you spend the most time with. And so in college, if you can have people that are already focused on entrepreneurship and starting to grow your own business or their own business, naturally that's just going to be contagious and you're going to want to be interested in that. And so I think it really helped, just me to find really cool people that, probably align more with what my motivation and passion levels are. And yeah, so I'd say that was the biggest thing. In terms of the motivation, how NDSU helped, it's a good question. I think what NDSU really helped me realize, especially working with Scott and just being able to meet a ton of like the successful entrepreneurs, whether it be Entrepreneurship Club or the guest speakers that would come in, is just that idea of like it's going to take a lot of work regardless of what you do. It's going to take a lot of hard work and it's going to take a lot of patience, and if you can just stick to those two things within your business, that's where success will come. Entrepreneurship is not an overnight success. Very rarely will you in the first year be completely made and be thinking about retirement and everything. It's a struggle, and you do just have to be willing to embrace that. And so as a competitor, like that's what always fires me up. And I think NDSU, whether it be again those guest speakers or Scott's or even working in the Night Center, like that's one of the lessons that I really took away from all those people.
Yeah, and for the listener, that's Scott Meyer, director of the Nice Center, and he does the Meyer Minute every week. So you can check that out on the Nice Center's Instagram page. Yeah, and he's a great resource for all of us for sure. So thanks so much, Jimmy, for everything. We gleaned some great insights from you. Do you have any like final parting words, especially for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think it's just going off my last point. Like, if you're going into entrepreneurship for the money and thinking that you're going to make a quick buck, it's not going to happen. I learned a great piece of advice from someone is entrepreneurship is about finding a problem that really pisses you off and trying to find a solution. Again, if you're in it for the money, you're in the wrong field because you'll have to dedicate 2, 3, potentially 5 years of making not a lot of income or very inconsistent income, and that can wear on people. So when you're passionate about a problem and trying to solve that problem, that's what gets you through the tough days, and that's what gets you through those days where you feel like quitting, because you have that why that really resonates with yourself and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Jimmy, where can people find you on social media if they want to learn more about what you do?
Huge LinkedIn fan. So if you're on LinkedIn, you can connect with me. It's just my name, Jimmy Slagle. Otherwise, if you want to see more of my personal life, that's probably Instagram, which is just at Jimmy Slagle, all one word.
And then your website, trendzteam.com.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
trendzteam.com.
Yeah, if you're interested in getting some advertisement on TikTok done for your company. Thanks again, Jimmy. Yeah, we gained a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Zach. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. See ya.